Walk into any hardware store in the country and you'll find it sitting right there on the shelf. A plain white powder costs about $3 a box, and it kills termites completely, reliably, without a single colony on Earth ever developing resistance to it. Not after 10 years, not after 100. It doesn't expire, it doesn't wash away. Applied to wood indoors, it stays active for the entire life of the structure. No reapplication, no service visits, no contracts. This compound has been scientifically documented since 1934. The EPA registered it in 1948. The International Building Code endorses it. Researchers from California to Japan to Australia have confirmed it works. And yet, ask the average homeowner if they've heard of boric acid as a termite solution, and they'll look at you like you're making it up. That's not an accident. That's a business decision. The U.S. pest control industry pulls in over $28 billion a year. A powder that costs $3 and lasts forever is the single biggest threat to that number. So they made sure you'd never find out about it. Today, we open that file. Welcome. The year is 1702. A German-Dutch chemist named Wilhelm Homburg is working in a Paris laboratory. He combines borax, a mineral known since ancient Babylon, with hydrochloric acid. The water burns off, and what remains is a fine crystalline powder he calls sal sedativum, his sedative salt. He had no idea he'd just created one of the most effective insect killers in history. For the next 2 centuries, boric acid mainly gets used in medicine, cleaning wounds, preserving tissue. But in the early 1900s, researchers in California start testing something different. They dust the compound onto cockroach trails inside military barracks. Every roach that walks through the powder dies within 72 hours. Here's the mechanism. Microscopic crystals cling to the insect's exoskeleton. When the insect grooms itself, it swallows them. Boric acid then shuts down the gut lining, disrupts the nervous system, and dehydrates the body from the inside out. But the detail that really stopped researchers in their tracks came next. When a poisoned insect returns to the colony and dies, the others eat the carcass, because termites and cockroaches are cannibals. The boric acid moves from body to body, traveling silently through the entire nest. Scientists at the time called it the gift that keeps on killing. In 1934, researchers at the University of California tested this directly on subterranean termites. Borax dust placed in contact with a colony eliminated 80% of individuals within 1 to 3 weeks. Wood treated with a 5% boric acid solution killed every single exposed termite within 4 days. And soil treated with a borax solution blocked termite penetration for the full duration of a year-long study. Builders in Japan went further. They lined the undersides of wooden structures with boric acid-treated newspaper and stopped Formosan termites cold. That's the most aggressive species on the planet. Colonies exceeding 1 million individuals, consuming a pound of wood per day. The same species that caused hundreds of millions in additional structural damage in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. Stopped by treated newspaper. By the 1950s, American builders were dusting wall cavities with boric acid during construction as standard practice. They called it the invisible shield. One application at the framing stage, and the wood was protected for the life of the building. No callbacks, no inspections, no contracts. Let's put some real numbers on this. Termites cause more property damage in the United States every year than tornadoes, house fires, and earthquakes combined. More than fires, more than earthquakes, every single year. American homeowners spend over $5 billion annually on termite control and damage repair. 600,000 homes are hit each year. The average household that discovers an infestation spends $3,000 on structural repairs alone, then another $1,000 to $3,000 on treatment. And here's the detail that should make you furious. Most homeowner insurance policies don't cover termite damage. They classify it as preventable maintenance. You pay the premiums, you pay the repairs, you pay for treatment. The industry collects at every step. Now compare that to a 1-pound box of boric acid, $3 to $5 at any hardware store. Mixed with water at a 5% concentration, it treats dozens of linear feet of exposed wood. Applied as dust, it fills wall cavities and creates a permanent barrier. The EPA classifies boric acid as Group E, zero evidence of cancer risk in humans. Its acute toxicity in laboratory rats is lower than table salt. Once absorbed into dry indoor wood, it stays effective indefinitely. No degradation, no reapplication, one application, no annual contract, no recurring invoice. Compare that to synthetic termiticides that need reapplication every 5 to 8 years, require licensed handling, and cost over $1,000 each time. The math isn't complicated, it's embarrassing. So if this compound is proven, safe, and costs almost nothing, why has almost no one heard of it? Follow the money. The U.S. pest control industry generated $28.4 billion in 2024 alone, growing at nearly 8% per year. Over 33,000 companies operate nationwide. Termite services are the crown jewel of that empire. The average treatment contract runs $1,000 to $3,000 up front, followed by annual renewal fees of $300 to $800. That's predictable, recurring revenue, the kind Wall Street rewards, scalable, endless. Now picture what happens when homeowners discover they can treat every inch of exposed wood in their house with a $5 box from the hardware store. Imagine what happens if builders go back to dusting wall cavities during construction instead of signing post-build service agreements. The whole business model collapses overnight. You can't patent boric acid. It's a naturally occurring mineral. You can't create a proprietary version that expires. You can't charge $3,000 for something that costs $3,000. So the industry did what large industries do when a cheap solution threatens expensive contracts. They lobbied, they regulated, and they complicated. In most states, termite treatment can only legally be performed by a licensed pest management professional. Not because boric acid is hazardous, but because the professional licensing framework was built around synthetic termiticides, chemicals that genuinely are dangerous if misapplied. Boric acid simply got caught in the same net. Here's where it gets almost elegant in its cynicism. The industry's proprietary flagship baiting system works on the exact same principle as boric acid, slow-acting poison that spreads through the colony via feeding and grooming. Same science, same mechanism. The difference is that one version costs $3 and you control it. The other costs thousands, and they do. The industry didn't ban boric acid. They did something far more effective. They made it invisible. They made sure it never appears in their marketing, never shows up in consumer guides, and never gets mentioned during the free inspection that exists to sell you a service contract. They built a world where the only answer to termites is a phone call and a credit card. Here is what the industry will never walk you through. Safety note first. Wear gloves and a dust mask when handling boric acid powder. Keep it away from children and pets. It's low toxicity, but it's still a pesticide and deserves basic caution. Use a hand bellows duster or squeeze bottle to puff dry powder into wall cavities, along baseboards, and around any plumbing penetrations. The goal is a thin, barely visible film. If you can see heavy clumps, you've used too much. Termites will avoid visible piles of any foreign material, but they'll walk straight through an invisible dusting. The crystals cling to their legs and bodies. When they groom, they swallow the compound. When they return to the colony and die, nestmates consume the carcass and the cycle continues. One contaminated termite can trigger a chain reaction through the entire nest. Dissolve 1 teaspoon of boric acid in 1 cup of warm water. Pour into a spray bottle and apply to any exposed, untreated wood in your crawl space, basement, attic, or garage. Focus on floor joists, sill plates, rim boards, and wood that sits near soil. Pay close attention to gaps where plumbing or electrical conduits pass through framing. Those gaps are the main entry points. Mix boric acid powder with damp cardboard or sawdust and a small amount of honey or molasses. Place the bait near signs of termite activity along your foundation walls. Termites are drawn to the cellulose in cardboard. They feed, carry particles back to the nest, and the spread begins. Check stations monthly and replace when consumed. One homeowner in Georgia placed 4 stations around his crawl space in March. By June, his annual inspection came back completely clean. For the first time in 7 years. Total cost was under $8. I won't pretend this is a cure for everything. If termites have been feeding undetected inside structural walls for years, you may need professional intervention to reach the colony core. That's the honest reality. But boric acid is devastatingly effective as a preventive measure. Applied to accessible wood, it stops termites before they ever get established. And prevention is exactly what the pest control industry fears most, because a homeowner who prevents the problem never becomes a customer. A $3 box replaces a $3,000 service call. Your grandfather's generation knew about this. They dusted wall cavities with boric acid the same way they changed their own oil and fixed their own roofs, without asking a corporation for permission. Then, a $28 billion industry convinced an entire generation that termite control was too complex, too dangerous, and too specialized for ordinary people. They turned a $5 solution into a $5,000 problem, and they've been collecting on that story ever since. The science is settled. The EPA registered it. The International Building Code endorses it. University researchers on 3 continents confirmed it. The only thing standing between you and that solution is an industry that profits from your not knowing. This information didn't vanish. It got buried under licensing requirements, annual contracts, and free inspections designed to sell you something you never needed. But it's still there on that shelf, $3, waiting. If this changed how you see it, share it with every homeowner you know. One share puts this in front of someone whose house might be getting eaten alive right now. Subscribe, and I'll keep pulling these files open. See you in the next one.